Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from ExecuteAutomation.com and welcome to our first ever EA weekly video series. If you remember last week we were discussing about EA weekly introduction and we discussed in Execute Automation Weekly, we are not just going to be discussing about automation testing tools that we were discussing all these days from screen share of my computer. Rather, we'll be discussing automation testing related topics which is surrounding to it, something like techniques, process, tools, and technologies. So we'll also be bringing some companies, some people who are really doing great in the automation testing field. So we'll be doing all these jazz in this particular video series. And I have already spoke with some of the companies. They are pretty interested and excited to talk about their tool in this particular video series. So probably they are going to be approaching to us. And I guess in the next week, we are going to be inviting test project team to talk about their exciting new product launch and also exciting new feature launch that they are going to be bringing in next year. So the company guys are going to be talking to us. And also I have signed up with some of these speakers who are really prominent in the automation testing field. And also I got some other updates from you guys as a community. I really appreciate that. I see that a lot of you guys really like the quality of the video. Thank you so much for that. And also I got appreciation that actually my face is very dull and also I'm not really sharing up on in the videos. I probably have to get used to it because this is the first time I'm actually doing a video series showing my face, so I probably need to get used to it, so it takes some time, but thank you very much for the comments. Well, as that said, let's jump into the topics that we're going to be talking about. So today in our EA Weekly, we are going to be talking the topics that we shared last week in our SurveyMonkey link. There are 4 topics that I shared and 2 topics that we're going to be talking in this particular video. The topics that we'll be talking in this particular video series is the first 2 highest rated topics. And if you could see the SurveyMonkey link that I will be sharing in the link below, is the first topics was how to manage BDD with Specflow and Cucumber for larger project. So that was the highest rated topic that we'll be talking today. And the next topics that was highest rated was how tester can leverage the power of Dockers and why does the testers need to learn Dockers. So these are the 2 topics that was kind of very highest rated, but other 2 topics were also close to this particular topics. They are also highest rated, but we're not going to be discussing about that in this video series, but we'll be discussing about that maybe in our upcoming videos. But as of now, these are the 2 topics that we'll be discussing in today's topic. So let's quickly jump in and start discuss about that. So the topic of the EA Weekly is this: how to manage larger test cases written in BDD fashion with both Specflow and Cucumber, and what is the purpose of testers learning Dockers. So the common question that I always get while working with BDD and how to manage larger BDD is this: since there are so many steps that we need to write for a scenario, the larger the scenario, the complex it is to maintain the scenario. And it is also harder to work with a larger number of data even while using the data table. That's another question that I used to get. And another question that I usually get from people is maintaining duplicate and obsolete steps is really harder, as we need to make the team choose the right sentences while writing them. So these are some of the common questions which arises while working with a larger project in a BDD scenario. So we can probably answer these common questions, which may probably give you more information on how to work BDD for a larger project. So the larger the scenario is, the complexity is to maintain the scenario. Well, if that's the case, try breaking down the scenario by taking all the common steps of the scenario into scenario background. So that will make your scenario even more smaller because you probably take all the setup informations of that particular scenario into a background, so that it's really easy to see that your scenario is going very smaller. And then target the scenario to test a specific operation instead of doing so many operations, because I've seen people doing so many operations within a scenario, something like logging in and then entering the informations of the setting and then performing certain operation and then testing the actual logout functionality. So in order to do all these operations, you don't really have to do from login to settings and then to logout. Rather, you can directly log in and then do a logout, so that makes your test more smaller and more efficient. I'm just giving an example, but this is what it is. I mean, try to reduce your scenarios as much as possible so that many operations should not be done within one single scenario. And then perform only one assertion per scenario. I've seen this, like sometimes we try ending up writing too many assert operations within a particular scenario. The more the assert operation that we write, the more problematic our scenario will be. Just consider this. Let's say if you have 2 or 3 assert operations within a particular scenario, for some reason the first assertion passed and the second assertion failed, and the third assertion still remains. What happens is, once the second assertion fails, the third assertion don't even carry it over there. And that's the reason that your test will completely fail. So in order to avoid this kinds of problem, try writing only one assert operation. That will make your life more easier. So that way you can maintain a scenario much easily, so that you don't really complicate the scenario to be maintained. And then it is also harder to work with a larger number of data. That's the other question that we usually used to get from the people. Yes, of course. It's always a good practice to bring in test data visible and readable within BDD scenario. So I have seen like people try to use external data to put all the data into an Excel sheet and then try to bring the data out from there. I guess that's okay, but I guess using BDD with external data is an anti-pattern and should be avoided as much as possible. So if the data are bigger, try breaking them down into multiple steps in multiple data tables so that it makes the test even more simpler and easier. So these are some of the easiest way that you can work with larger data. So if you have many data, try to break them into multiple steps, which makes the test even more easier and much more maintainable. Finally, maintaining duplicate and obsolete steps. So maintaining the duplicate and obsolete steps can be done in the team by writing a common reusable step class file. So I have seen many people try to write some of the common functionality in multiple step files, and it is also even harder for the team member to just go around and look in which class file that particular step definition has been actually implemented. So try to write a common class file where you can put all those step definition over there, so that it is very, very easier for the team members to go look into that particular class file and see, oh, okay, this is the step definition which has to be taken care. We can probably reuse that and we can start using them. That's really, really easier option. And also sharing the knowledge among the team for each and every step definition also make even life easier, because if you tell what this particular step definition is doing among the team, probably the team member remembers that, okay, this step definition is going to do this particular job, then probably I can use that. So the good collaborative team can also make these problems avoided. And finally, better peer code review. So if you do a good peer code review, you might know that while you do the code review that this particular step definition is going to do this. You will have all the information, so it's very, very easier within the team to maintain the duplicate as well as the obsolete steps. So probably we are doing the same thing in our companies, and I have never seen this happening in any one of my companies so far. So we will probably see a demo of this particular information that we have discussed here. I have worked with many companies, and I'll quickly show you one of the companies that actually does this thing. So I'm actually not going to show you the real source code of the particular project, but I'll quickly show you how the project is being organized and how we are efficiently and effectively using the Specflow BDD scenarios. So as you can see here within our project, we actually have what is called as a feature file folder. So you can see this is the feature file folders. So as you can see that we have so many feature file within this particular project, and each and every feature file actually has many steps here because they are actually relating to that particular name. These things we have probably discussed in our advanced framework development with Selenium C# course. And you can also see that we also have another project which have the features as well, and this has steps. So we are also reusing this particular step from one project to another project, like a step definition usage. It's very, very easy in C#. We are also doing those things. So as you can see that we are actually effectively using BDD for bigger project, and some of our scenarios, as you can see here, are very, very bigger. They have so many step definitions implemented there, and they are very, very larger as well, as you can see here. Right? So this is the power of BDD that we can use within our organizations. I also have a framework for Java, but that's something we have already covered in our course, so please go ahead and watch there. And the next topic that we'll be discussing about today is actually the purpose of testers learning Dockers. So testing environments are everywhere nowadays, and I have seen testers are using a lot of environments these days like production, internal, pre-prod, testing environment. And testing environments are something that we use every day. We try to reimage the machine if you're using virtual machines, and then we try to install the softwares, and we do all the sort of jobs every day as a daily chore, and we are knowingly or unknowingly involved as a DevOps within our own organizations. Well, we as a testers get involved in configuring the machines, installing required softwares, and run automation tests every day. And now it's high time for us to wear the hats of both QA and DevOps, which makes our life even more easier because we are almost doing everything as we need to do. Well, before jumping into Dockers, I have known Docker is kind of new, and if you have not watched my other videos, you can see that Docker is kind of different from the virtual machines, because virtual machines includes the applications, the necessary binaries and libraries, and the entire guest operating systems, all of which can amount to tens of GBs. Whereas the Docker world, we call everything as containers, and containers includes the application and all its dependencies, but share the kernel with other containers running as isolated process in user space on the host operating system. So the Docker containers are not tied to any specific infrastructure. They run on any computer and on any infrastructure and on any cloud. So that's the power of the Docker itself. So as that said, Docker helps tester to understand the concept of better networking and application architectures, because we are creating the images, we'll be writing containers, YAML file, and then we'll be spinning up that. So we are doing so many things as a tester if we learn the Dockers, and we can better use the time and resources, because Dockers will help save a lot of times than compared to virtual machines, because even though you use checkpoints in virtual machines, it's always harder for tester to replicate the same environment as like production environment. But actually using Dockers, we can try to replicate the same kind of environment of production within the testing, internal, prod, and pre-prod environment. And testing applications on multiple environment is as quick as possible because it is Docker, so you can just spin up the container and then you test that and you can spin down the container. So everything is going to be as quick as possible than virtual machine. So to get more resources on Dockers and DevOps, just learn the complete series from this order: understanding the ABC of Docker, Docker with Selenium, Docker on Windows, and Kubernetes for testers. So this complete video series is actually for free, available in YouTube and Udemy, so please go ahead and watch there. Well, as that said, these are the two topics that we are about to discuss in today's EA Weekly video series, and almost these are the topics that we have discussed a lot in our ExecuteAutomation YouTube channel as well as in Udemy. And if you are really interested in learning some of the advanced concepts and framework design and development, there are so many courses available in ExecuteAutomation channel as well as in Udemy, so please go ahead and watch there. And I guess we have discussed a lot today. Probably in our next video, we'll be calling some other guest to talk about their product, and we'll see how things work. So once again, thank you very much for watching this video and have a great day.